The test squad for the Pakistan tour to Australia has been announced, and the PCB seems to be appointing a coach or a selector every single day. Welcome to the shiny side. I'm your host, Shah, and I have with me Umair Qazi and Saud Hashimi. How are you doing, guys?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you, Hafeez?
I'm very well, thanks. Just, I guess, a couple of days of no cricket, so getting on with normal life to some extent. But I guess what's happened this week is that we've announced a 17-member test squad for the 3-test series in Australia next month. We play in Perth, Melbourne, and Sydney. And before we get into the squad, right, there's been a few appointments and announcements. Like I said, the PCB is announcing something every day. So I think the last time we had this kind of chat, Hafeez had been appointed director of cricket. Since then, it's been announced that he will also be coaching the side. Now, there are lots of reasons we can get into why that's a good idea or not. But starting up, if you go to the PCB website right now and you go check requirements for coach, right? The two main things you see are certifications of some kind. I'm not even going to get into what certification, and coaching experience. And Hafeez does not even pretend to have either. So Umair, help me make sense.
Nothing makes sense to me in Pakistan cricket. It's a circus out there in the PCB. They're appointing these former cricketers. Look, in a way, it's good that these guys have jobs and they're getting salaries. But I have always been of the mindset that, your management, team management, and the selectors and the coaches need to be at a different age group to the current players that are playing, right? These guys, Hafeez, Wahab, they've all played under Babar. Whether in league, in PSL, or whether in international cricket. Hafeez was playing till 2 years ago. It just does not work. There needs to be a clear gap. There's respect and the seniority that needs to be there. Sadly, in Pakistan cricket, I don't know. I mean, these guys, so nothing makes sense to me. I don't know what the PCB is thinking, to be honest.
So, your take on this?
That's not the point. I think the point that Umair is making, the reason why you asked the question is that there's no real process, there's no real logic, there's no real thought through sense of what's going on. I mean, you see it even in this whole conversation that's erupted around Haris Rauf and all. So I don't know. I think it's a circus. I do think it's a short-term circus. So the good news is that I think that this is a 3-month, 4-month circus, perhaps, because very much so even the legitimacy of what is going on in the PCB is being questioned, right? Because of this interim setup. So I think you should consider the setup only for this Australia series. That's it. And you have my thought on it. I mean, Hafeez has no qualification for coaching. Does he know what drills to run? Does he know what he needs to do? I don't even know what's going on in that dressing room, right? In that coaching room. And I've seen it. I mean, I've seen it on other sports. I mean, you need professional coaches. You need coaches who've coached at the top level. I mean, these are really important things. I don't know why Pakistanis feel that we can short circuit, right? Quality. To get to outcome. I just don't understand that. Yeah.
So clearly we know what both of you think of Hafeez's appointment. I guess, I mean, again, we spoke about this before. I have a lot of time for Mickey Arthur, but I think the old structure was flawed to begin with. I think a director of cricket, the role can exist if they're sitting in the boardroom and overseeing all of the selectors, coach, captain, etc. But Mickey was essentially a coach working remotely, and an assistant coach would run the show while he wasn't there. So it was just an odd structure. So I feel like we had to move on from the structure. But again, this is not how I hope we would move on. Wahab Riaz's appointment as chief selector. Umair, any thoughts on that before we get into the press conference?
So, initially I thought, I don't know how this would work, given he plays under Babar for Peshawar Zalmi. And Babar is also sort of the captain who dropped him from the international team. So, those dynamics, I don't know how all these things will work. But Wahab has since then announced he will not play the PSL since he's become chief selector. So fine, a good move. But again, what qualification does he have to be chief selector? I don't know. He was playing cricket. He was still playing league cricket. He was on TV talking nonsense about the team while this World Cup was going on, and before that we've seen him on a number of shows. And you come on as chief selector, and then again, I don't know what qualifications. He's announced a team. I have my own take on that. We'll come to that, I guess. But yeah, his first press conference showed us that he's not cut out for this job at all.
Yeah, and Saud, let's not forget, he's also a serving minister. So as far as I understand, he's been appointed chief selector, but he hasn't quit that role at this point. the PCB that was making a
Yeah.
hue and cry about Inzamam and Rizwan and Babur having a whole conflict of interest situation happening, have appointed a sitting minister as the chief selector, Saud. So how do you, I mean, without getting into the politics of it too much, how do you see it from a cricket point of view?
But I think that's why it is, because it aligns with the politics. Look, I think that in Pakistan, doing the right thing at the PCB seems to really not be the main focus, right? Doing the thing that works for them seems to be. So I think appointing Wahab Riaz as chief selector weirdly gives some stability to this PCB politically. And maybe that's all there is to it.
Yeah, could be.
Because he is the only one that's connected. He's the only one that's actually got, an in on the government. And this is not a trivial thing. So perhaps for them, they just felt like this is the only choice they could make and still survive, right? People, you have to understand, all of these guys are sort of also looking at their own survival, right? That's mode number one when you're in these positions. So I think that's very much it. I mean, there is absolutely no way anybody can convince us, at least me, that Wahab is in the top 10 people that you would think about when you think about chief selector. Hafeez is in the top 10 people I would think about, and who are Pakistani, right? So even in Pakistan, there are other people that you would think about first. So it all smacks of, this weird, like, sitting in a drawing room and making choices, which is literally what all of sports in this country has become. To sit around and make choices on who gets to play and who it is.
Even Hafeez is a political appointee, right? One of his uncles is such as a MP or something in the government.
So that's believable. Also, both the guys were on TV talking about the team, right? So it seems like political appointee, be on TV, so make yourself heard and bitch the team out and, hey, you're in for the shot. But
maybe this was planned. Maybe this whole thing, you think this might be a reaction, but maybe they were told, be on TV a little bit, do this thing, we'll appoint you after.
Could be. But I think, guys, I have to talk about one thing. I feel like I think I disagree with both of you on a couple of things. I think both of you have suggested that that's kind of how the PCB works. I kind of disagree, because I feel like the PCB has been doing things somewhat okay in a decent manner for the last 7-8 odd years or so. They had a good 6, 7, 8 years spell. Yeah. So I think I'm talking about this. Yeah. So I think I feel like Wasim Khan and Ehsan Mani were doing a pretty good job. Things were moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
I feel like Ramiz, not my favorite chairman, but you know what? He didn't really disrupt anything that was happening. But from the day Nazam Sethi came in and decided to take everything back 5 years without even evaluating what is working well or not, and then Zaka Ashraf regime is just icing on the cake. I guess less controversially, Umar Gul and Saeed Ajmal are appointed as spin and fast bowling coaches. I guess Umar Gul has actually been doing that role for a while, so I don't really have an issue with that. Saeed Ajmal, science is the man. I don't know if he's been coaching a lot. Umair, any thoughts on that?
Science will become the man, as one of our friends said. But look, Umar Gul and Saeed Ajmal, I don't have any. I think these are decent appointees. Umar Gul has coached Pakistan as well in the recent past. He coached Afghanistan, so he's got at least some experience. Saeed Ajmal was one of our best spinners, so he might be able to help out Abrar and Numan Ali on tour. Nothing against these appointees. But just on what you said about the PCB has been doing well for the last 7-8 years. Look, the chairman in terms of Ehsan Mani, Ramiz Raja were doing great jobs, yes. But there was that whole period when Misbah ul Haq was part of the committee that fired Arthur, and then he became head coach and selector. I mean, as far as the coaching and selection committees have been concerned, they have not been pretty effective, and it's been very strange appointees, and how they come about is a question mark.
I guess so. Moving on to the score, but just before we do that, so we're talking about a Pakistan tour to Australia. I'm sure we have a lot of memories, all of us, of like somebody said, get ready in the winter to wake up to see Pakistan at 40 for 5 once again. My question to both of you, and maybe Saud, you can go first, is who were the captains of Pakistan and Australia when Pakistan last won a test in Australia?
Yaar, I'm like so bad at these things.
Umair,
cricket for me.
You can pitch in.
Umair, why didn't you go? Because cricket for me is blended together.
So I think the captain was Wasim Akram, I think, because we won in '95. It might have been Salim Malik, but I don't know. I think
and who was the captain on the other side?
Akram. So Australia would probably be Mark Taylor.
And the answers are Chiching.
Good job.
So I believe this is the only test match we've ever won in Australia.
What? Really?
No,
How
no,
can
no.
that actually be?
No,
That can't
we've
be
won
true.
4. We have
Yeah,
won
that
4
can't be
tests
true.
in Australia, but this was the last one we won. So we've won 3 before this, but in the 60s and the 70s and 80s. But
And
there
there
are
was
4 total that we won. But since 1995, it's been what? 30 years, 28 years now.
Wow.
And the
And
last
how
test
many
we won
times
against Australia
have
was
we been?
2010. Sorry?
And how many times have we been since then?
Well, 99, 2003.
Every 4 years. Every 4 years.
I think we've easily been like 5 or 6 times, I would say.
Yeah.
Wow.
We've lost, I think, the last.
So the omens are not good.
Yeah, I think we've lost the last 16 tests in Australia.
There are a few memorable ones, right? There's the Langer didn't walk in 99. There is
where he smashed it.
There's the Kamran Akmal dropping of Hasi when we were ahead in that game.
Man, that's
unreal stuff.
Yeah, happy memories, like I said.
There has been, and there was an amazing innings by Hasi. I remember that. Like
that was 89, I think, or something like that. I think we drew
they're with Imran. So Imran and Wasim were a beautiful cover drive. So I was like, this man can bat, and then he never did that ever again, like that. It was like a special occasion. But you know, my lasting memory of Australia is always Saim. By the way, he's the only Pakistani in Australia that always was on top.
Yeah,
of
he
the
had a
stuff
pretty
that
good
was
record.
happening, and it was not test, but amazing. That's who I think of.
So if we look at the test squad very quickly, guys, so I guess there's no real surprises there. So the guys which are not in bold are the ones who were there last time as well. So there's Imam and there's Abdullah. Saim Ayub is going to be making his debut if he plays. Then we have Shah, Babar, Saud, Sarfaraz. That was pretty much the top 6 we had last time around. Rizwan is there as backup. Then we have Agha, Salman, Ahmed Jamal, and Fahim as all-rounders. And then we have Shaheen and Hassan Ali. But then I guess the guys who come, Wasim and Khurram Shahzad, who have never played a test match, so they're on debut. And Mir Hamza has made a comeback. With the ball, with the spin, we have Abrar and Noman. So I guess as a starting point, Umair, any prominent people you feel like should have been there who are not there?
Yeah, so my first reaction to the squad was it's very similar. So the last test series we played was in Sri Lanka in June. And most of those players are in here as well. But the shocker for me, and what I was really, really disappointed about is this young kid, Mohammad Hurraira. You know, Mohammad Hurraira has been the leading run scorer in Qaeda-e-Azam Trophy for the last 3 years. He was in the test squad for Sri Lanka. He was there in Sri Lanka. He didn't play a test match, but he was in the squad. Finally, 3 years of huge runs that the guy had scored paid off, and he was selected. Without playing a test, he's been dropped for no reason whatsoever. And you've got Saim Ayub. Now, Saim Ayub is your new, up-and-coming impact player. Everyone's
flavor of the month.
But look, Saim Ayub has been inducted into T20 cricket. He's played all your T20 internationals this season for Pakistan. That's the format that suits him best. He is having his first good Qaeda-e-Azam Trophy, first ever right now. He's hit a double 100, and fine, you select him. But why are you dropping Hurraira? Hurraira is your most promising youngster. He averages 57 in first-class cricket across 32 first-class games. He's got 10 hundreds, 10 50s. He's got a triple 100. Very talented batsman. And Saim may not end up playing because you've got Imam and Abdullah who've been opening for a while and they've been doing well. And Hurraira also did not play. But okay, fine, select Saim, but have Hurraira there as well. What wrong has that kid done?
I was a little concerned to see Saim as well, right? Remind me of the time when we had, at one point, we thought Nasir Jamshed was the shit, right? Like he was playing really well in white ball cricket. And we made him debut in South Africa at a time when Sane and Morkel were at their peak. And I don't think Nasir Jamshed was ever the same cricketer after that, right? So I feel like Saim is just beginning to make his way in white ball cricket. I would rather give him some time there, let him play there, play him a couple of more seasons, perhaps of doing well in the Qaeda-e-Azam and then come in. But Saud, what was your reaction to the squad? Any prominent?
Well, no. So I had the same thought. I really dislike doing something where you selected a person because of performance, and for no lack of performance you drop him, right? So it's just basically like, what's the message you're trying to send out to cricketers in Pakistan is what I don't understand, right? So what, you've got to cozy up to the right people? Is that the message? Because clearly you should not have dropped a guy who's actually in the squad and didn't get a chance to play because of his performance, and you dropped him. And so apart from that, look, I think that I'm not really a huge fan of some of the players who are on the squad. I think the squad is very inexperienced in the context of playing in Australia. I think the only good news is that there is a core of decent batsmen, or at least batsmen that I consider decent, and maybe a couple of others can come good. I think the bowling is going to continue to be the real issue, actually, right? So I don't look at our bowling line. I don't think the Australians look at our bowling and say there's anything there that makes them think we're going to get them out twice in a test match. This is the thing. So, in test match cricket, the actual conversation needs to be this. Do you think you have the bowlers to get the other team out twice? Right? And I think this, I don't know how to answer.
Or even once for that matter in this case.
So I'm I can hope for a good thing, but I really do believe that they're going to be at least the first, the second. I'm prepared for some very lopsided matches, right? So
also, if I'm looking down this lineup, I think Shaheen is the only one who's played a test in Australia. I don't believe Hassan Ali has. I'm not sure Noman Ali wasn't around.
But this is what I'm saying, right? No, I mean, this is what I'm saying. So it's like almost like an amateur team you're taking into the crucible of Australia, and nobody on that team is like a earth-shattering world beater. Nobody's amazing. Nobody's new on the bowling side. In fact, they're all sort of weak and they need to be developed further. So I think this is going to be it's good, right? So if you are trying to develop young kids, you want them to see how bad it can be, and this is probably a great series to do that. Now, I hope what happens isn't what happened in South Africa, like you were speaking of, that some of these kids get scarred. I suspect a couple of them will. I think it's inevitable. I think a couple of these kids are going to get scarred bad because they're going to get battered in the bowling, and they're going to get battered in the batting on both sides.
Yeah,
but then you don't have experienced bowlers in Pakistan either, right?
That's true. It's not like we've left someone out, though. I guess that's the other thing.
Yeah.
No,
this is the best,
and that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I don't, I have no issue with with the fact that you left out a person who performed. But what are you going to do? This is, I think, slim pickings. I just think that it's a tough series, right?
Yeah.
I think that it's a very, very difficult thing to go there with this sort of experience.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the point of that quiz, right? We haven't won there in like 20x years. So clearly, I would expect this one to be the one where we change that.
Yeah.
But I guess before we finish up, we have to talk about Wahab's press conference where he seemed to throw Haris and to some extent Babar under the bus. So Wahab did a press conference announcing the squad where he came out and said, so what we know he said is that we asked Haris Rauf to be part of the squad, and Haris conditionally said he would. But last night he informed us that he does not want to be part of the test squad. Now, he according to Cricket Info, sources close to Haris say that's not how this conversation went down, but this is what Wahab has said. So what happened behind the scenes, we do not know. But what we do know for sure is Wahab has made a point to throw one of your premier fast bowlers under the bus publicly, and made it a point to do that. So, Umair, your take on all of this?
Pathetic, absolutely pathetic. Firstly, any conversation that Wahab has had with Haris, he should not be disclosing in a press conference.
100%.
Whatever that conversation was, and you see other selectors, let's say the most professional selection committee there is, the Australian selection committee. They talk about their conversations with players, about how they want them to develop, where they want to rest, where they want to play. It's more encouraging and positive communication that they talk about. Here, Wahab has come out and said, bullshit about Haris Rauf, whether true or not. But why would you say something like this? And then if you hear the press conference, he is saying things like, we told Haris, it's okay if you do not perform. You can fail and we will accept it. Who talks like this? Why would you say this in a press conference? And then he said, we told Haris, you will not bowl more than 10 to 12 overs a day. Why are you pre-planning this? Why is the selector pre-planning that a premier bowler will not bowl more than 10, 12 overs in a day? Like, how can you pre-plan any of this? And who are you to say, it makes no sense to me. And I think they're being very unfair on Haris. Haris is your white ball player. He's your, not even ODI, he's your premier T20 bowler. He wants to play leagues. He wants to focus on T20 cricket, white ball cricket. Let him do that. You forced him to play a test match last year. He got injured.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to play red ball cricket. Don't pressurize him. And Wahab himself, mind you, 3 years ago, left Pakistan in the dark when he decided he will not play test cricket again. Him and Mohammad Amir both. And Pakistan had to go in with a green bowling attack to Australia.
And if I can just
And you are
interrupt
now...
you, he did that right before the Australia tour as well. He didn't do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, it is just pathetic, which is why, I mean, such a bad appointment.
Yeah,
Really
my
bad.
take was, look,
Very
I think
disappointing.
even if everything he's saying is true, this is not, you shouldn't be disclosing it publicly, right? This is between you and the player.
Absolutely.
But also, I mean, if you want Haris to play Test cricket, then get him to play first-class cricket. Remember the last time he played anything more than in an ODI, right? So he's obviously, you're setting him up for failure. Saud, how do you see all of this?
He's not played any first-class cricket.
Yeah.
I think Wahab was talking not as a cricketer. He was speaking very much like a politician, right? I've heard this speak from people in power who basically are like, "Oh, isne meri baat nahi suni," and put him under, throw him under the bus. What does he think he is? I felt that's sort of a vibe, right, from Wahab, and I think he's been in the politics of the sport even for just the last year, and it's really infected him, and it's a bad thing because you shouldn't be calling out a cricketer like that. And if you are planning on calling out a cricketer, you should do it in a much more planned way, right? This has got far-reaching repercussions, as you're saying, Farish. Having said all of this, I think it's ludicrous to even suggest that Haris Rauf should play Test cricket. He obviously is not able to sustain the way he bowls for longer than 10, 12 overs. He clearly does not want to play Test cricket for you. Why would you insist on selecting somebody who does not want to play? Now, if you have a principle on this, so I know that other sides have in the past, right, had held to some principles that no, you're contracted. That means if we ask you to come, you must play. But the simple fact is the world has moved on from this. So nobody really is now, forcing players, and they're coming to some arranged conversation with the player, right? That sets a plan. So this is smacks of this crap that, he called in, he had the conversation, Wahab heard what he wanted to hear, announced it, and then he's like, how could Haris have come out and say this shit? How could he refuse me? And I'm going to, whatever. And it was all anger. So he said all sorts of things that professional people who are not angry don't say, right? So again, it just does not smell good. It doesn't look good. But I think it's temporary. I don't expect these guys to be around till past March, because the minute elections happen, the minute we have a PM in place, the whole PCB infrastructure will change, and this will change.
Which is
administration changes, my friend.
Fine, but like, imagine being a player right now. You're not even sure how to deal with this, right? You're just trying to get through the next 2-3 months, and it's just a messed up situation.
Yeah. What did Wahab say about Babar?
So but Wahab you're used to this, man. You're a player.
There was a question someone asked about Babar, and he said about Babar's captaincy, and he said, yeah, sure, Babar is a very important player, but he's been captain for 4 years, and we haven't won an ICC title. And I'm like, dude, पिछले 7 साल में हम कितने ICC title जीते थे, उससे 10 साल में कितने जीते, right? So again, definitely taking a dig at Babar.
And he didn't have to say, he doesn't have to say these things, right? So this is extra stuff that if you're even somewhat savvy about how you talk to the media, you don't want to say, because just opening up like more stuff. So you want to keep the message on point. You want to keep it specific. So this sort of news conference, it's like classic Pakistan, like chote log jo bade apne ko samajh ke bakwas karte hain. Honestly speaking, I've lost a lot of respect for Wahab in the course of the last 2 years. Honestly, I loved the man at some point. I thought he had this thing. But this whole being a sports minister, playing in the PSI, what the hell, man, is going on?
To be honest, look, I think
we
may doubt his. I mean, I did doubt his competence for the role, but I always thought he was a decentish guy. But it doesn't seem so after this press conference anymore, right?
The only time Wahab looked. Sorry, the only time Wahab looked decent was when he was on the pavilion. His analysis seemed pretty good. The moment he went to the
the other channel,
the other channel, he was just nonsense.
That's correct.
Right? It was just, and even in his cricketing career, his claim to fame is probably that spell where was it? Adelaide against Australia, the quarterfinal. But he didn't win Pakistan that game. I'm sorry, Babar hasn't won you ICC trophies. You haven't won us any games also. With your bowling. Come on.
So it's. I mean, you're not even in the same conversation. So really, taking a dig makes no sense. But I guess that's probably it for today, guys. So thank you for being on. Thank you, Umair.
Thanks,
thank you for having me again.
Thank you, Saud. And we'll be back soon.
Let's see how we do.
Yeah, let's see how we do. Like somebody said, get ready to wake up at 5 in the morning at 50 for 4. But who knows? But thank you for being on, guys. And for those of you watching, please leave a comment on what you think should the squad have been if you would look at it differently. And in the meantime, stay tuned to the shiny side.